All right, girl bosses
Oh,
plus
let
Sean.
me wipe my
Mhm.
camera.
Sean's the honorary girl boss.
Okay.
Girl
He's
boss
girl
Sean.
manager.
Welcome everyone to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Book Club. I'm
Woo!
Sean, as always, joined by Kira,
Hi.
Azara,
Hi.
Angel,
Hello.
Mia, and for our
Hi.
first time, a new host, Allie.
Hi.
Alright, so this week we read chapter 4 of Jorge Joestar. Initial thoughts, what did we think of this chapter?
So happy to see Rohan.
Okay.
I hated it, but I was so happy to
Yeah,
see him.
Rohan was there. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like to
You
see.
can't have a JoJo story without Rohan.
I really like to see Rohan, but honestly, other than that, the chapter was pretty boring.
Oh yeah, I
It
think this is
was
the worst chapter so far.
confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was kind of confusing. Like there was a few things I had to go back and like reread.
It was like happy to see the characters. What the hell was going on other than that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think like the latter half of the chapter really confused me. Like the first half was okay, like I was excited to see Rohan, like all that whatever. But then like with
The
the
polar
bear, I
bear.
was like, okay, I think I kind of what's happening, and then it just completely devolved from there. And they mentioned like in the chapter like, oh, 3 like teenagers or like 3 somethings are like at the door, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
god, it's gonna be Okuyasu, Josuke,
Yeah.
and Koichi, and it
Koichi.
wasn't. So
It wasn't.
I feel like it was kind of
Yeah.
all universe: Josuke, Okuyasu, and Koichi. I think
Yeah.
that
Because wasn't it like Nijimura?
was
Mhm.
Koichi.
right.
Yeah,
So-
and they were twin brothers.
But I was like, oh, that was kind of sad.
Alright, so we...
So it was more like Keicho, Okuyasu, and Koichi.
Yeah. So we're ready to dive into the summary. It's 1 page this time. Very, very boring chapter. 2011 Jorge Joestar arrives in Morio and meets with Rohan, who owns Arrow Cross House, the place where Tsukumo Juku was found dead. George immediately dives into the most interesting, but also somehow most boring murder case of all time, involving Japanese folklore, polar bears painted brown, living stands, and spinning houses. So I guess we should talk about how Tsukumo Juku was murdered and how weird his murder is for seemingly no reason. His head was cut off, like, so it was just like hung on by like a flap of
It was
skin.
like-
Yeah, and he's
Yeah, and
holding,
it was like
an-
leaning.
Yeah, and he has an axe in his hand and he's positioned on a bear inside of Rohan's house.
And Rohan was just like, how did
Rohan
this?
like never noticed.
Yeah.
So pretty weird. Pretty weird murder.
Like, didn't notice the dead dude in the middle of your house, smell, none of that.
I mean, it's Rohan.
He minded his business.
I feel like that's something expected of him, not to notice something in his house.
Yeah, and also
Like he didn't notice his house was on fire.
yeah.
So
Yeah?
Fair point. Fair point.
Yeah.
And also
It
the
wasn't
fact
even
that
like
there were...
oh, it's getting a little warm.
Oh yeah, it was fully on fuego by the time he actually realized. There's also the fact that there were 2 other detectives that were murdered in similar ways to like other pieces of Japanese folklore, and it's like, oh, so Sugu somehow transported like hundreds of miles from where he was before to then show up with his head almost cut off. He got nearly headless nicked. So that was pretty weird. Does anyone... I mean, it was an interesting case, but like, you find out halfway through that the explanation George came up with for it doesn't work. So like half of the chapter is pointless because it doesn't wind up working. So that's fun. We also meet a new group of Morio warriors, learn Kira can explode people just that say his name, and George can see stands now. Yeah, that was a pretty boss move. And you just
Very
say
much
Kira.
girl boss. Kira's a girl boss.
For real.
That was actually like, that's just crazy. There was like a lot just going on in that chapter. Even though I sped ran it, I was still like, I feel like even if I would have like read it normally, I wouldn't have understood it.
Yeah, like I just thought, like that was so weird that they were like, oh yeah, and he has this third Bob now called Bites the Dust, and I was like, how do you know what he called Bites the Dust? And also,
Yeah.
yeah, like how do you? I don't know. How did you spread around the fact that like saying his name blows you up? Like how did the guy before not blow up who told him it was Yoshikage Kira? Like he got told on the phone before that it was Yoshikage Kira was the one on the like behind the mastermind thing. So I was like,
Hmm.
why didn't that guy blow up?
Yeah, like was he the exception? Like it's like only every other person or something?
Yeah, it's just like a game of mastermind, and he has to figure it out. All right. The entirety of Morio begins moving through the ocean, breaking off from the continent, and Rohan reveals that the George we know from 2011 might secretly be the other George.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh my! He was reading it off,
Yeah.
and I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
It was like I read your memories and it was underneath like the forgery section and I was like, so there's it's like a chapter book or like the contents or something. And I was like, he died in World War II. What the
And that's how like the actual George Joestar kind of died. Like not in World War II, but he was like kind
Yeah,
of,
but like it was like during that time. So like that
Mhm,
kind of stuck to it. But
that was like I feel like that was like the most interesting part for me. So I was like,
yeah.
wow, plot twist. This really the George Joestar that we know?
And Rohan really tacked that on at the end of the chapter too. Like the propeller kid flew up and was like, "Oh yeah, the entire town is floating through the ocean right now." And then Rohan leaned down and was like, "Hey George, I know this is kind of a weird time to bring it up, but I read your memories. you're not who you say you are." And I was like, that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay.
This is kind of a weird random thing, but I was thinking a lot just because of this chapter. I was thinking a lot about like Rohan's stand, and like I think it was interesting the way they describe like I think it was like Raimi and how he was like, oh, like she has amnesia, but I was like, wait, is that to do like she? I could not figure out what's going on. She is a ghost in this universe, right? Like what the fuck was happening there?
She's a stand.
Yeah.
She's a stand. So okay, what? Like I
Yeah.
really just
Wait.
didn't understand what was happening with her.
She's the house. She's the stand of the house.
Yeah, because
Right.
she didn't because they were asking her about before it was the current house, I think.
The cube house.
Yeah, before it was the
And is
cube
that why he
house.
couldn't read like her memories?
I think so, because
I'm
then
guessing.
she turned into Arrow Cross House. So then I think her memories got
Kind of
rewritten.
erased and it restarted from
Yeah.
where the
Right.
current house was built at.
Yeah, because I
Then
was
I
like,
was
if she has amnesia and he can't read her memories, I was like, that doesn't make sense because like I feel like there's so many characters where it's like not memory, it's like objective. And I'm like, if it's about memory, then that doesn't make sense for his like stand. But that makes sense.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, so that's another thing that was different. Raimi is just whole ass a stand.
She's
Yeah,
not like
effing
a
ghost, she
dead
just-
person.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like hiding Rohan and the other kid now, like underneath.
Yeah, the two
The
people
house,
who said
yeah.
Kira's name who were gonna blow up, she hid them under the house where there's no oxygen.
So it wouldn't like affect like the air or something wouldn't explode, I think.
So
Which I'm like, okay, so when they get out.
Yeah, so Rohan apparently knows that saying the name Yoshikage Kira will explode you, but he said it at some point because that's why he's under the house.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how does he know that? And he didn't, and he's not like confused about why he's still alive.
Yeah, he seemed confused about why the kids were ignoring him too, which you'd think that like I don't. It just was all really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, then why can George Joestar see Rohan?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Many
I think
questions.
it's. I'll tell you this. It's because he's a detective and he needed to talk to Rohan.
Great. Such a good explanation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm sure that'll be the in-plot reason for why he could see Rohan is just because George needed to talk to him.
And he's the main character, so
He's having a main character moment.
Also,
Yeah.
just like a random thing, but I love that George kind of like insulted Rohan's hair. He was like, "Oh, that didn't seem like a hairstyle that you would ask for at a hair salon." He's like, "Oh, he does his hair at home. Like it looks so
Yeah,
bad."
I was like, this is horrible. You wouldn't pay someone to do this. I was like, dang, George.
Oh my god.
Right after you ruin that man's hair clippers. And...
Oh my, this George is so much better than the other George.
Yeah.
Well, except for the fact, I don't know how they're gonna be like they're the same person because the other one is English and this kid's half Japanese.
Haven't you read this?
Yeah. Well,
So then they just never answer.
no, they answer it. It's just not
It doesn't make any
satisfactory.
sense. Oh, they're just like, because it's, it's a bizarre adventure.
There's such an excessive use of the word bizarre. I don't know if you guys have talked about that before, but every like 10 lines they're like, it's a bizarre blank. I'm like, why do you keep using
To
it?
emphasize
Yeah,
the
I've
bizarreness
noticed that. I
on the
remember seeing bizarre in today's chapter. I was like, huh.
It just kept on going.
Yeah, it's like the part in a movie where they say the name of the movie and like they like turn to you. I'm like,
Except they do that 10 times.
yeah.
yeah. I thought like they'll write it on the wall in blood. Get out. It's like, we should get out.
All right. So, do we have any other thoughts on this chapter? Because like this was kind of a slow one. Not much really happened.
Rohan was still Rohan
P
in this.
Neko Neko.
Neko Nyan.
Yeah, R.I.P. Neko Neko
Nyan.
Nyan. Nyan. And the other one.
And the other.
I don't know how he didn't notice a polar bear in his house. House with
I
a
want to know
compass.
how like Angelo Rock and the Boingy place is like still those places. Like, did Josuke exist? Did Koichi exist?
Did this sound like the same events happen, but
On Panlandia?
yeah.
And why
And then-
did Morio break off into the water? Was that
I'm not over
that one
Rohan
gets
being
answered.
like-
The other questions only get kind of answered. That one gets answered though.
When there was like the earthquake in Morio, it kind of reminded me about part 8. I'm not going to say too much about it, but like it kind of like when you start off, you learn about these things in part 8 that were caused by an earthquake, and that kind of reminded me of that. I'm not going to say too much because I don't want to spoil part 8.
Yeah.
But
All right, so I think unless anyone has anything else to add, that's this week's episode. It's a short one, but it was a slow chapter.
The short one, because this chapter was kind of...
yeah?
Because half of the
I'll
chapter,
definitely read the next chapter all the way through.
Yeah, that's a good start. Half of this chapter was just George solving a mystery the wrong way.
Yeah.
So there's nothing
Yeah.
really to say about it.
It was like useless, most of it. I was just really happy to see Rohan. Look at him doing his little
Yeah.
thing. That just made me feel like I was like, okay, something I can
Between
do.
Rohan and Raimi, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
missed them.
Can George see stands then?
He was written into him that he can see
Rohan,
stands.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, but then why did he see Pink Dark Boy at first? And oh wait, no, that's just Rohan can do that.
Yeah, he can just draw in the
Yeah,
air.
because he was like, oh, I saw Rohan drawing some dude, and I was like, so you can see stands? But then
Yeah.
towards later, I was like,
Rohan's
okay,
just
so
that good
what
of an
would...
artist.
Okay.
All right. Well, bye, gang. Thanks for joining us for a short episode this week. Bye-bye.
Why?
Bye.